Tay floated in the zero-gravity chamber, his body spinning out of control. The simulation room stretched wide around him, filled with floating obstacles and holographic enemies. He reached out to grab something, anything, but his fingers found only empty air. Around him, the other cadets moved like they were born in space. They twisted, flipped, and fought with perfect grace. Tay was not graceful. He crashed into a metal beam and bounced away, his head ringing. "Pathetic," a voice boomed through the speakers. Commander Vex watched from the control room above. The reptilian instructor's yellow eyes tracked every clumsy movement Tay made. The human fails again. 23 seconds, a new record for incompetence. Laughter echoed through the chamber. Kral, the massive insectoid cadet, floated nearby with his arms crossed. His shell gleamed under the lights, covered in battle scars from his homeworld. Humans should stick to their laboratories. They have no place among warriors. The other alien cadets nodded and whispered to each other. Tay could feel their stares burning into his back. He had failed this simulation 3 times now. 3 times in front of everyone. His chest felt tight, but not from lack of air. The shame squeezed harder than any physical pain. The simulation ended. Gravity returned slowly, pulling everyone down to the floor. Tay's legs shook as they took his weight. He pulled off his helmet and walked toward the exit, keeping his eyes down. "Tay, wait." Hana jogged up beside him. Her short black hair was damp with sweat. Unlike Tay, she had completed the simulation perfectly. She always did. "Don't listen to them. You'll get better." "I've been saying that for 3 months, Tay said quietly. He flexed his right hand, feeling the raised lines of his palm tattoo under his glove. The black geometric pattern had been there since he was a child. His grandmother had told him it was a family mark, passed down through generations. She said it meant something important, but she died before explaining what. "Come on. We have combat training next." Hana grabbed his arm and pulled him forward. "At least you're good with a blade." Combat training was held in the main arena. Cadets from a dozen different species gathered on the mats, stretching and preparing. Tay found a quiet corner and began his warm-up routine. He tried to ignore the whispers and pointed looks. Commander Vex entered the arena, his clawed feet clicking on the metal floor. "Today we practice hand-to-hand combat. Partner up. Humans with humans, preferably. I'd rather not explain to medical why someone got accidentally killed." More laughter. Tay clenched his jaw. Hana moved to stand beside him, ready to be his partner like always. But Commander Vex held up one scaled hand. "Not today. Cadet Hana, you will spar with Dreth." He pointed to an amphibious cadet with blue-green skin. "Cadet Tay will face Kral." The arena went silent. Everyone turned to stare. Kral was twice Tay's size and had been training as a warrior since he could walk. His species conquered 3 neighboring planets before joining the Galactic Coalition. Fighting was in his blood. "Commander, that's not fair," Hana protested. "Kral will teach the human a valuable lesson," Vex interrupted. "If Cadet Tay cannot handle a simple sparring match, he has no business at this academy. Perhaps he will finally accept that some species are meant to fight and others are meant to watch." Tay walked to the center of the mat. His heart pounded in his chest, but he kept his face calm. Kral followed, cracking his knuckles. The insectoid's mandibles clicked together in what might have been a smile. "Try not to die, human," Kral said. The match started. Kral moved fast, faster than something his size should move. His fist came at Tay's face like a hammer. Tay barely dodged, feeling the air whoosh past his ear. He tried to counter with a strike to Kral's side, but it was like punching stone. Pain shot through Tay's knuckles. Kral's next punch caught Tay in the stomach. The air exploded from his lungs. He bent forward, gasping. Before he could recover, Kral's knee came up and hit him in the chest. Tay flew backward and hit the mat hard. The world spun. "Get up, human. Show us this famous Earth determination." Kral stood over him, completely relaxed. He wasn't even breathing hard. Tay pushed himself up on shaking arms. Blood dripped from his nose. His ribs screamed with pain. But he stood. He raised his fists again. Kral shook his head. "Stupid." His backhand strike sent Tay sprawling. This time Tay's head bounced off the mat. Darkness crept in from the edges of his vision. He heard voices shouting, but they sounded far away. The last thing he saw before everything went black was his right palm, the tattoo seeming to pulse with a faint light, but maybe that was just his dying brain playing tricks. Tay woke up in the medical bay. White lights shone down from above. Nari, the human medical officer, stood beside his bed checking a display. She was older than most cadets, maybe 40, with kind eyes and steady hands. "Welcome back," she said softly. "You've been out for 2 hours. Concussion, 3 cracked ribs, and a lot of bruising. You'll live, but you'll hurt for a while." "Did I at least land 1 hit?" Tay asked, his voice rough. Nari smiled sadly. "No, I'm sorry." Tay closed his eyes. "Of course not." He touched his right palm, feeling the familiar pattern of his tattoo. "Why am I even here? Everyone's right. Humans are weak. We don't belong with warriors." "That's pain talking, not truth." Nari sat down beside his bed. "My grandfather used to tell me something. He said our family carried an old legacy, something sleeping, waiting for the right moment. He had a mark too, just like yours, on his palm." Tay's eyes snapped open. "You know about the tattoo?" "A little, not much. Just that it's been in certain families for a very long time, longer than records show." She leaned closer. "My grandfather said it would matter someday, that we should never be ashamed of being human, because we carry something important, something the galaxy needs." "Sounds like a nice story to tell children," Tay said bitterly. "Maybe. But I've lived long enough to learn that old stories usually have truth buried in them." Nari stood up. "Rest now. You'll be cleared for duty tomorrow, but take it easy." After she left, Tay stared at his palm. In the dim light of the medical bay, the geometric lines looked almost alive. He traced them with his other hand, feeling the slight warmth under his skin. His grandmother's words came back to him, something she whispered on her deathbed. "It will awaken when humanity needs it most. Until then, stay strong, stay ready." "I'm trying, grandmother," he whispered to the empty room, "but I don't know if I'm strong enough." The next morning, Tay limped back to his quarters. He found Hana waiting outside his door, her arms full of food containers from the cafeteria. "You missed breakfast," she said. "Thought you might be hungry." They sat together in his small room, eating in comfortable silence. Finally, Hana spoke. "There's news. A distress signal came in last night. They found something on a dead planet called Threshold 7, some kind of ancient structure. All senior cadets are being assigned to investigate." "We're not senior cadets," Tay pointed out. "No, but there's a shortage of personnel. They're taking volunteers from our level." She looked at him seriously. "I'm going. I think you should too." "Why would they want me?" "I can't even beat a training simulation. Because maybe out there in real situations you'll find what you're good at. The academy isn't everything, Tay. There's more to being a warrior than winning practice fights." She squeezed his shoulder. "Besides, I need someone I trust watching my back. Someone who won't give up no matter how hard things get. That's you." Tay looked at his palm again. The tattoo seemed darker today, the lines more defined. Maybe it was his imagination. Or maybe somewhere deep in his genetic code something old was stirring. Waiting. "Okay," he said finally. "I'll volunteer." He had no idea that this decision would change everything. Not just for him, but for all of humanity. The mockery would continue, the doubt would follow him to Threshold 7. But on that dead world under ancient stars, the truth would finally wake up, and nothing would ever be the same again. The transport ship Dauntless cut through space like a silver knife. Inside, 40 cadets sat strapped into their seats, armor and equipment piled around them. Tay stared out the window at the stars rushing past. Beside him, Hana checked her weapon for the 3rd time. She always got nervous before missions, though she never admitted it. "Attention, cadets." Captain Oren's voice crackled through the speakers. The human captain was a veteran, scarred from decades of real combat. "We'll reach Threshold 7 in 30 minutes. I want everyone sharp. This planet died in a war thousands of years ago. Whatever killed it might still be there." Kral snorted from across the bay. "Ancient ghosts don't scare me, Captain. Though I'm sure the humans will need protecting." Several alien cadets laughed. Tay ignored them. He had learned that responding only made things worse. The mockery had continued since they left the academy. Kral and his friends made the human cadets carry extra equipment, claiming their weak bodies needed the training. When Tay protested, Commander Vex had agreed with Kral. "It builds character," the reptilian had said with a cold smile. Yoon, a thin human with nervous hands, sat next to Tay. The engineering cadet had been quiet the whole trip. "I don't like this," Yoon whispered. "The energy readings from Threshold 7 are strange. Like nothing in the Coalition database." "Strange how?" Tay asked. "Active. Old things shouldn't be active." Yoon pulled out his datapad and showed Tai a screen full of numbers and graphs. See these spikes? Something down there is still running, still waiting. Tai looked at the graphs, but his attention caught on something else. In the corner of Yoon's screen was a star chart, showing the route to Threshold 7. Ancient symbols marked certain points, symbols that looked exactly like the patterns on Tai's palm. Where did you get this chart? Tai grabbed Yoon's arm. Old Coalition archive. Found it buried in some files marked Historical Curiosity. Why? Yoon looked confused. Before Tai could answer, the ship shook. They had entered Threshold 7's atmosphere. Through the windows, Tai watched a dead world come into view. The planet's surface was scarred with massive craters and strange geometric patterns visible from space. Nothing grew there. Nothing moved. It was a tomb. The Dauntless landed near the largest structure, a pyramid of black stone that rose hundreds of meters into the dusty sky. As the cadets filed out, Tai felt an immediate headache building behind his eyes. His right palm grew warm inside his glove. He pulled the glove tighter, hiding it. Spread out, Commander Vex ordered. Teams of 6. Map the exterior, then we'll decide on interior exploration. He pointed at Tai, Hana, Yoon, and 3 others. Your Team 7, survey the eastern side. Try not to get lost. Team 7 moved away from the main group. The ground crunched under their boots, covered in a strange crystalline dust. The air tasted metallic. Tai's headache got worse with every step. His palm felt like it was on fire now, but he said nothing. Dreth, the amphibious cadet, walked beside Tai. Unlike most aliens at the academy, Dreth had never mocked the humans. He was quiet, thoughtful, and surprisingly kind. You look pale, Dreth said. Are you sick? Just a headache. The air here is thin. Tai tried to smile, but it came out as more of a grimace. They reached the eastern wall of the pyramid. Up close, it was even more impressive. The black stone was smooth, unmarked by time. Strange symbols covered every surface, glowing faintly with blue light. Hana ran her scanner over them. These symbols predate the Coalition by millennia, she said. But the energy signature is still strong. Whatever this place is, it's not completely dead. Yoon stepped closer to examine a particularly complex symbol. Look at this pattern. It's mathematical. A sequence. If I'm reading this right, it's instructions. A lock. A lock for what? Dreth asked. For that. Yoon pointed to a section of wall that seemed slightly different from the rest. It was a door, hidden so perfectly that they almost missed it. The door was covered in the same geometric patterns that marked Tai's palm. As they all stared, the symbols pulsed with that faint blue light. Tai's palm burned so hot now that he gasped. Without thinking, he pulled off his glove and pressed his hand against the door. The effect was immediate. Every symbol on the door blazed with white light. The ground shook. The door cracked open with a sound like grinding stone. Everyone jumped back. Dreth raised his weapon. Hana grabbed Tai's arm. What did you do? Tai stared at his palm. The tattoo was glowing. Actually glowing. With the same white light that had come from the door. The geometric lines seemed to move under his skin, shifting and changing. I don't know. Your hand. Yoon's eyes were wide. It matches the door. Exactly. Before anyone could say more, Commander Vex's voice shouted through their communicators. All teams return to the ship immediately. We have incoming. Static cut him off. Through the communicator came screaming, explosions, the terrible sound of weapons fire, then silence. We need to move. Hana pulled out her weapon and started running back toward the landing site. The others followed, all except Dreth, who grabbed Tai's shoulder. That door opened for you, Dreth said quickly. Your hand. The tattoo. This place knows you somehow. We need to understand what that means. I don't understand it myself, Tai protested. Then we need to find out, fast. Dreth pushed Tai toward the door. Whatever attacked the others might be connected to this place. The answer might be inside. They ran through the door into darkness. Emergency lights flickered on automatically, revealing a corridor that stretched deep into the pyramid. The walls were covered in more symbols, all of them starting to glow as Tai passed. His tattoo grew brighter in response, spreading up his arm in thin lines of light. It's spreading, Tai said, panic rising in his voice. Dreth, what's happening to me? I don't know, but keep moving. Dreth had his weapon ready, scanning for threats. The corridor opened into a massive chamber. At its center stood a pillar of crystal pulsing with energy. Around the room, Holographic displays flickered to life. They showed star maps, battle formations, and something else. Ships, massive ships of a design Tai had never seen. Organic-looking, covered in spikes and armor. Yoon ran to the nearest console, his fingers flying over the controls. This is a defensive installation, built by something called the Wardens. They fought a war against... His voice trailed off. His face went white. Against what? Hana demanded. Against the Devourers, a species that consumes entire worlds. The Wardens built these installations across the galaxy to stop them. Yoon looked at Tae. And somehow you're connected to all this. A new sound filled the air, a deep thrumming vibration that made Tae's teeth ache. Through the doorway, they saw the sky outside change color. Something enormous was emerging from a tear in space itself. A ship. No, not a ship. A living nightmare of metal and flesh as large as a city. The holographic displays in the chamber went red. Warning symbols flashed. An ancient voice spoke in a language Tae shouldn't understand, but somehow did. The words echoed in his mind. Devourer vessel detected. Defense protocols offline. Warden presence required. Tae looked at his glowing palm, then at the terrified faces of his friends. Outside, that monstrous ship was turning toward the planet's surface. Toward their friends. Toward everyone. I think, Tae said slowly, my grandmother was right. This tattoo does mean something, and we're about to find out what. The chamber's lights grew brighter. The crystal pillar pulsed faster. And deep in Tae's mind, something ancient stirred. Something that had been sleeping for thousands of years. Something that recognized the enemy in the sky. The Warden was beginning to wake. But Tae was still just a cadet. A human cadet who had failed every simulation. Who had been mocked and beaten. Who had no idea how to stop a ship that destroyed worlds. He looked at his friends. I need your help. I have no idea what I'm doing. That's okay, Hana said, raising her weapon. We'll figure it out together. That's what humans do. We survive. Outside, the Devourer ship opened fire. The battle for Threshold 7 had begun. The ground shook as the first blast hit. Tae stumbled, catching himself against the crystal pillar. Through the doorway, he could see beams of red energy tearing across the sky. The Devourer ship hung in the atmosphere like a dark moon, its weapons lighting up the dead planet. The Dauntless is gone, Hana shouted, checking her communicator. I'm getting scattered signals from survivors. They're heading for cover in the ruins. Another explosion, closer this time. Dust rained from the ceiling. Yoon grabbed Tae's arm, his fingers digging in hard. You opened that door. Can you do anything else? Because if not, we're all going to die in the next 10 minutes. Tae stared at his glowing palm. The light had spread up to his elbow now, the geometric patterns moving like living things under his skin. His headache was worse, but underneath the pain, something else was growing. Knowledge. Thousands of images flooding his mind. Battle tactics, weapon systems, languages he never learned but suddenly understood. I can feel something, Tae said. This place, it's trying to talk to me. Show me things, then listen. Dreth moved to the doorway, watching for threats. We need those defenses active. Tae placed both hands on the crystal pillar. The moment his tattoo touched it, the world exploded into light. Information poured into his brain like water from a broken dam. He saw the Wardens, an ancient species that had protected the galaxy for millennia. He saw their war against the Devourers, creatures that consumed everything in their path. He saw how the Wardens had scattered themselves across the galaxy, hiding their genetics in other species, waiting for the day the enemy returned. And that day was now. The Wardens didn't die, Tae gasped. They hid. In us, in humans. Some of us carry their blood. That's impossible, Hana said. Humans have complete genetic records. We'd know. Not if they hid it deep enough. Sleeping. Waiting to wake up when needed. Tae pulled his hands away from the pillar. His eyes glowed with the same white light as his tattoo. I can activate the defenses. I can fight that ship, but I don't know how long I can control it. We don't have a choice. Yoon pulled up data on his pad. That ship is deploying ground forces, machines, hundreds of them. They'll hunt down every survivor. Tae closed his eyes and reached out with his mind. The connection to the installation was there waiting. He grabbed it like taking hold of a weapon. All around the chamber, systems roared to life. The pyramid shook. Outside, massive weapons emerged from beneath the sand, pointing toward the sky. It's working, Dreth called out. The defenses are online. But Tae barely heard him. The Warden knowledge in his mind was overwhelming. It wanted him to be cold, efficient, to calculate the best strategic moves without emotion, to sacrifice pieces on the board to win the game. It didn't care about individuals. Only victory. No, Tay whispered. I won't think like that. Those aren't pieces. They're people. The warden presence in his mind pushed back. It showed him probabilities, tactical advantages, the logical path to survival. But Tay fought it. He was still human. He wouldn't abandon that. Through the defense network, he could see everything. Commander Vex was alive, leading a group of cadets toward the ruins. Captain Oren was wounded but fighting. And Kral, the massive insectoid who had beaten Tay so badly, was holding the line against 3 war machines, protecting younger cadets behind him. I need to help them, Tay said. His nose started bleeding from the strain of controlling so much at once. I can see them all. They're scattered, surrounded. You can't save everyone. The warden knowledge whispered in his mind. Save the majority. Let the others go. No. Tay gritted his teeth. He activated a weapon platform near Kral's position and fired. The beam tore through 2 of the war machines. Kral looked up in shock as the metal monsters exploded. Tay moved to the next group, then the next, firing the ancient weapons with precision. But more machines kept coming. The Devourer ship was manufacturing them faster than Tay could destroy them. And each action took energy. Tay could feel himself weakening. His legs shook. Blood ran from his nose and ears. You're killing yourself. Hana grabbed him. Tay, you need to stop. Can't stop. People are dying. Tay's voice sounded strange, layered with an older tone. The warden presence was getting stronger. Yoon had been working at a console, frantically reading the ancient data. There's a main weapon, a pulse that can destroy the Devourer ship, but he looked at Tay with horror. The person who activates it won't survive. The energy feedback is too much. Then I'll do it, Tay said simply. Better one death than hundreds. No! Hana shook him hard. There has to be another way. There isn't. The cold logic of the warden mind was certain. This is the optimal solution. But Tay's human heart screamed against it. He didn't want to die. He was only 22. He had never even been in love. Never traveled to Earth's oceans like he always planned. There was so much he hadn't done. So much life left to live. A new group of survivors stumbled into the chamber. Commander Vex bleeding from a dozen wounds. Captain Oren supporting injured cadets. And Kral, his armor cracked and broken. They all stared at Tay, at his glowing form. What are you? Commander Vex whispered. A weapon, the warden voice said through Tay's mouth. A tool left behind for this purpose. And I will fulfill my function. No, you won't. Kral stepped forward. The huge insectoid looked terrible, but his eyes were clear. You saved my life out there. You could have let those machines kill me. You used precious energy to save the one who beat you. Who mocked you? Why? Because I'm not just a weapon, Tay said, and this time it was his own voice. I'm human. We don't leave people behind. Even people who hurt us, Kral dropped to one knee. I was wrong about you. About all humans. I judged you by physical strength and missed everything else. Your courage, your compassion, your refusal to become what others think you should be. He looked up at Tay. If someone must die to stop that ship, let it be me. I am a warrior. This is a warrior's death. You can't activate the weapon, Yoon said quietly. Only someone with warden genetics can touch the system. Then we're doomed, Commander Vex said. We can't ask him to sacrifice himself. Nari pushed through the crowd. The medical officer's uniform was torn, her face covered in dust. Maybe we don't have to. She held up her own hand. There, faint but visible, was a mark. Not as dark as Tay's, barely more than a shadow under her skin. I told you my grandfather had the same tattoo. It runs in families. I have one too. Yoon pulled back his sleeve. Another faint mark. I never thought it meant anything. Just an old birthmark. One by one, 3 other humans stepped forward. All of them had marks. All of them carried sleeping warden blood. If we share the load, Nari said, we might all survive. 5 people instead of 1. The energy gets distributed. It will hurt. We might not walk away whole, but we'll walk away. Tay wanted to cry with relief. The cold warden logic said this was inefficient, but his human heart sang. Are you sure? You could die. So could you. Nari smiled. Besides, someone has to teach you youngsters how to properly save the galaxy. Can't let you have all the glory. They moved to the central console together, 5 humans, hands touching the interface. The tattoos on all of them began to glow, linking together in a network of light. The chamber filled with power. Outside, the massive weapon started to charge. But the Devourer ship noticed. It stopped deploying machines and turned all its weapons on the pyramid. The ground exploded around them. The walls cracked. The ceiling started to collapse. "Hold the line," Captain Oren shouted. All the surviving cadets, human and alien alike, formed a protective circle around the 5 at the console. Krall stood at the front, his battered body refusing to fall. Dreth fired his weapon until it overheated. Hana fought with blade and gun, protecting Tay's back like she always had. The weapon charged, 50%. 60. The humans at the console screamed in pain as energy burned through them. 70%, 80. Tay's vision blurred. He could feel the others weakening, their life forces dimming. "Hold on," he shouted to them. "Just a little longer." 90%. The Devourer ship fired its main weapon directly at the pyramid. The beam tore through the upper levels. Cadets died holding the line. The ceiling came down. Krall grabbed a falling beam, holding it up with his own body, refusing to let it crush the humans. 100%. "Fire!" Tay screamed. A column of pure white light erupted from the pyramid. It shot straight up, piercing the Devourer ship at its center. The ancient vessel, built to withstand supernovas, cracked like an egg. The beam tore through it, splitting it apart. Secondary explosions rippled across its hull. The ship died, and the 5 humans at the console collapsed as one, smoke rising from their bodies. Tay woke to the sound of machines beeping. His body felt like it had been torn apart and badly put back together. Every breath hurt. His eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the bright lights of a medical bay, but not the Academy's medical bay. This one was newer, cleaner, filled with equipment he didn't recognize. "Easy." Nari's voice came from beside his bed. She sat in a chair, her arm in a cast, her face pale but smiling. "You've been out for 4 days. Your body needed time to heal. We all did. The others." Tay's voice came out as a croak. "Alive, all 5 of us made it. Yoon has some nerve damage in his hands, but doctors think he'll recover fully. The other 3 are already walking around. You took the worst of it because you were the primary connection." Nari poured water and helped him drink. "You saved us all, Tay. When the weapon fired, you redirected most of the feedback into yourself. The others felt the strain, but you took the real hit. I didn't want anyone to die." Tay tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through his chest. "And no one did." "Well, not none. We lost 17 cadets in the battle. But without you, we would have lost everyone." Nari's eyes were wet. "Commander Vex made it. Captain Oren, Hana, Krall. All because you refused to think like the Warden wanted you to." The door opened. Hana rushed in, followed by Dreth and Yoon. Hana's left arm was bandaged, but she moved quickly to Tay's bedside and grabbed his hand. "You stupid, brave idiot. Don't ever scare me like that again." "I'll try not to," Tay said with a weak smile. He looked at his right palm. The tattoo was still there but changed. The lines were permanent now, slightly raised, and they still held a faint glow. "Did it work? Is the ship destroyed?" "Completely. The Devourer is dead." Dreth stepped forward. "And the galaxy knows about it. About you. About what humans really are." "What do you mean?" Yoon pulled out his datapad. "While you were unconscious, the Coalition sent investigators. They studied the ruins, the Warden technology, and they tested human genetics across multiple populations. Tay, approximately 1 in every 1,000 humans carries the Warden marker. Most of them will never activate it. But the potential is there. Humanity is the Warden's legacy." Tay struggled to process this. "So what happens now?" "Now?" Hana grinned. "Now everything changes. The Coalition Council is meeting to discuss humanity's status. Several species have already apologized publicly for how they treated human cadets, and you specifically have been requested to testify about what happened here." Before Tay could respond, the door opened again. This time Commander Vex entered, walking with a cane. The reptilian scales were scarred, several of them still healing. Behind him came Krall, and behind Krall at least 20 other cadets of various species. Commander Vex stopped at Tay's bedside. For a long moment he said nothing. Then slowly he bowed his head. "I was wrong about you. About humans. I allowed my prejudice to cloud my judgment, and it almost cost us everything. You proved that strength comes in many forms. I apologize, Kral stepped forward next. The big insectoid had bandages wrapped around his torso, and one of his arms was in a sling. You saved my life. When those machines had me surrounded, protecting the young ones, I thought I would die there. But you used your power to destroy them. You could have let me die. I beat you, mocked you, made your life miserable, but you saved me anyway. His mandibles clicked softly. That is true strength. True honor. I am ashamed of how I treated you. I ask your forgiveness. You held up that falling beam, Tay said quietly. You could have died, but you protected us while we charged the weapon. You have nothing to apologize for. I do, and I will spend time making up for it. Kral placed something on Ty's bed. It was a small carved stone shaped like a shield. In my culture, this symbol means brother in arms. I would be honored if you would accept it. Tay picked up the stone, feeling its weight. I accept. And I forgive you. All of you. He looked at the other cadets crowded in the doorway. We all did what we thought was right with the knowledge we had. Now we know better. That's what matters. The days that followed were strange. Tay recovered slowly, taking short walks through the medical station. Everywhere he went, cadets and officers stopped to stare. But not with mockery anymore. With respect, with awe. Some even asked to see his tattoo, to touch it like it was a holy relic. It made him uncomfortable. I don't want to be worshipped, he told Nari one evening. They sat in the observation deck, watching stars drift past. I'm still just me, still the same person who failed those simulations. But you're also the person who saved hundreds of lives, who awakened an ancient legacy, who showed the galaxy that humans are more than they appear. Nari looked at her own faint mark. We all carry this now. The responsibility, the knowledge that we're part of something bigger. What if I don't want to be part of something bigger? What if I just want to be Ty, then be Tay, but understand that Tay is someone special now? That doesn't have to change who you are at your core. You still care about people, still fight for what's right, still refuse to leave anyone behind. That's the Ty we know. The power just makes you better able to do what you already wanted to do. A week after waking, Tay was summoned to a meeting. Captain Oren, now promoted to commander after the previous commander's recommendation, led him to a conference room. Inside waited officials from the Coalition Council, representatives from a dozen species, and to Tay's shock, several important humans from Earth government. Cadet Tay, one of the council members spoke. She was a tall, crystalline being whose body refracted light. We have reviewed the events at Threshold 7. The evidence is clear. The Wardens seeded humanity with their genetic legacy. This changes everything we know about your species. We're still human, Tay said firmly. The Warden genetics don't change that. We're not some ancient warriors reborn. We're people who happen to carry old blood. That's all? That's all? Another council member, a being of pure energy in a containment suit, laughed. You destroyed a devourer ship. Something thought impossible for millennia. You activated technology that we couldn't even understand. You are warriors, whether you accept it or not. We're warriors because we chose to fight, not because of some genetic code. Tay looked at each council member in turn. Every species here has that same choice. To fight for what's right, to protect others. You don't need Warden blood for that. You just need courage. There was silence. Then the crystalline being smiled. Wise words. Perhaps that is the real lesson here. The Wardens didn't just leave us weapons. They left us an example of sacrifice, of unity, of refusing to give up even when the enemy seems unstoppable. The meeting continued for hours. Decisions were made. Humanity's status in the coalition was elevated. The Academy's policies were changed. Human cadets would no longer be treated as inferior, and Tay, along with the other Warden heirs as they were now called, would be given special training to understand and control their abilities. But more importantly, the Coalition acknowledged something fundamental. The Devourers weren't extinct. The ship at Threshold 7 had come from somewhere. There were others, sleeping in hidden places across the galaxy, and now that one had been destroyed, the others might wake up. We need you, Commander Oren said after the meeting. Not just you, Tay, all the Warden heirs. We're forming a special response team. When Devourer sites are found, you'll be the ones to investigate and, if necessary, fight. I'm still just a cadet, Tay protested. I don't know how to lead. You'll learn, and you won't be alone. Oren smiled. Hana has volunteered. So has Yoon. Dreth asked to transfer to your team. Even Kral requested assignment. You have friends, Tay. People who believe in you. That's more valuable than any ancient power. That night, Tay stood in his temporary quarters looking at his glowing palm. The tattoo pulsed softly, a reminder of what he carried, what he was. Part human, part warden. But mostly he hoped still himself. There would be more battles, more devourers, more chances to die, but there would also be chances to save people, to prove that humanity deserved its place among the stars, and he wouldn't face it alone. 6 months passed like a dream, or maybe a nightmare. Tay wasn't always sure which. The Stellar Defense Academy looked the same, but everything else had changed. Where human cadets once walked with their heads down, they now moved with confidence. Where mockery once filled the halls, there was now respect. The change happened so fast it almost felt unreal. Tay stood in training room 7, the same room where Kral had beaten him unconscious. But today was different. Today, he was the instructor. 15 cadets faced him. 5 humans, 10 aliens from various species. All of them watched him with wide eyes. Some with admiration, some with fear. Tay hated both reactions equally. Today we talk about failure, Tay began. 6 months ago I failed a zero-gravity simulation. 3 times. I was the worst cadet in my class. The weakest. The slowest. Everyone knew it. Everyone said so. He held up his glowing palm. This didn't make me special. It didn't suddenly make me strong. It just gave me tools. But tools are useless if you don't know who you are. He lowered his hand. I'm still that cadet who failed. I still make mistakes. I still fall down. The difference is that now I understand something important. Failure isn't the end. It's practice for getting up. A small human cadet in the front row raised her hand. But you have power now. Real power. You can't really understand what it's like for us anymore. Can't I? Tay smiled. Let me tell you what happened last week. We found another warden site. I went with my team to investigate. And you know what? I messed up. I triggered a defense system by accident. Nearly got Hana killed. My power didn't stop me from making a stupid mistake. I still had to live with the fear. The guilt. The knowledge that I'm not perfect. He walked among the cadets. Power doesn't fix everything. It doesn't make you confident or brave or smart. Those things come from here. He tapped his chest. From choosing to try even when you're terrified. From standing back up when everyone expects you to stay down. From caring about people more than you care about looking strong. The training continued. Tay showed them techniques, but more importantly, he talked to them. He learned their names, their fears, their dreams. He treated them like people, not soldiers. After class, Hana found him in the hallway. She wore a lieutenant's insignia now, earned through her actions at Threshold 7. You're good at this, teaching. I'm trying, but I feel like a fraud sometimes. They look at me like I have all the answers. Tay rubbed his face. I don't even have questions yet. Nobody does. We're all making this up as we go. Hana bumped his shoulder. Come on, Commander Orrin wants to see us. Something about a new mission. The briefing room held familiar faces. Yoon sat at the table, his hands fully healed now, working on a datapad. Dreth stood by the window, his blue-green skin reflecting the starlight. And Kral, massive and scarred, waited patiently by the door. They were the core team now, the Warden heirs and their closest allies. Commander Orrin entered with Nari. The older woman moved slowly, still recovering from her injuries, but her eyes were sharp. We've located another Devourer site. This one is different, bigger. The energy readings suggest multiple ships. How many? Tay asked. At least 3, maybe more. Orrin pulled up a holographic display showing a distant star system. The system is uninhabited now, but it's close to several colonies. If those ships wake up, then thousands die. Tay studied the display. When do we leave? Tomorrow. But there's something else. Orrin looked uncomfortable. The Coalition Council wants to make this mission public. They want to show the galaxy that we're ready for the Devourer threat, that humanity and its allies can protect everyone. They want to use us for propaganda, Hana said flatly. They want to give people hope. Nari corrected gently. The discovery that Devourers still exist has caused panic across the galaxy. People need to see that we're not helpless, that we have defenders. He thought about it. He didn't like being on display. Didn't like the attention, but he understood the necessity. Okay, we'll do it. But on one condition. What condition? Oren asked. We bring cadets, young ones. Show them what real work looks like. Not just the victories, but the fear. The mistakes. The hard choices. If we're going to inspire people, let's inspire them with truth, not legends. The mission launched with cameras following their every move. Tay hated it, but he kept his promise. He let the young cadets see him being uncertain, making plans and changing them, admitting when he didn't know something. The Devourer sight was worse than expected. 4 ships, all of them waking up. The team had to move fast, activating ancient warden weapons while holding off waves of machines. Tay split his focus between controlling the defenses and protecting his team. It was exhausting, terrifying. Several times he thought they would fail, but they didn't. Yoon found a way to accelerate the warden weapons charge time. Dreth led a strike team that destroyed a critical Devourer relay. Kral held a choke point alone for 6 minutes, refusing to let anything past. And Hana, brilliant Hana, coordinated everyone with perfect precision. When the weapons fired and the Devourer ships exploded, Tay didn't feel victorious. He felt tired. 3 team members were injured. One of the young cadets had panicked and nearly died. They had won, but barely. The camera crews wanted to interview him immediately, to capture his triumph. Instead, Tay went to the injured cadet first, a young alien with green fur and forearms. She was crying, ashamed of her fear. I froze, she sobbed. I was useless. You were scared. That's normal. Tay sat beside her. The first time I faced real danger, I could barely think. I made mistakes. I still do. But you know what? You survived. You learned. Next time will be easier. How do you stay so calm? I'm not calm. I'm terrified almost all the time. Tay showed her his hands. They were shaking. See, still scared? But I do the work anyway. That's all courage is. Doing what needs to be done even when you're afraid. The girl stared at him. Then slowly she smiled. Thank you. That moment, more than any explosion or victory, was what the cameras captured. And that moment was what spread across the galaxy. Not a powerful warden heir defeating enemies, but a young man being kind to someone who felt worthless. Messages started coming. From humans, from aliens, from species across the coalition. People saying they felt inspired. That if Tay could admit fear and still fight, maybe they could too. That power wasn't the point. The point was trying. 3 months later, the Academy held a ceremony. Tay and his team were officially recognized as the first response unit. They would be the ones called when Devourer threats emerged. It was an honor, a responsibility, a burden. Tay stood on the stage looking out at hundreds of cadets. He thought about the journey that brought him here. The mockery, the failures, the moment his tattoo first glowed, the friends he made, the enemies who became allies. When I first came to this academy, he said into the microphone, I was nobody. I couldn't pass basic simulations. I was the joke, the weak human who didn't belong. He paused. I believed it too. I thought I was worthless. The room was silent. But someone told me to keep trying, to not give up. And slowly I learned something. We're all carrying potential we can't see. Some of us have ancient genetics. Some of us have natural strength or speed or intelligence. But all of us, every single one of us, has the ability to choose courage over fear, to choose kindness over cruelty, to choose to stand up when everything says to stay down. He held up his glowing palm. This mark didn't save anyone. My choices did. My friends did. The cadets who stood beside me even when it looked hopeless. That's what matters. That's what makes us strong. Tay looked directly at the young cadets in the front rows. He saw himself in their nervous faces, their doubt, their fear of not being enough. You are enough, he said firmly. Right now, exactly as you are enough. You'll make mistakes. You'll fail. You'll face things that terrify you. But if you remember that failure is just another kind of practice, that fear is just another kind of information, then nothing can stop you. Not mockery. Not doubt. Not even ancient enemies from the dark. The applause started slowly, then built into thunder. But Tay wasn't looking at the crowd anymore. He was looking at his team. Hana, who never gave up on him. Yoon, who used his mind to solve impossible problems. Dreth, who chose friendship over prejudice. Kral, who learned that admitting wrong takes more strength than fighting. Nari, who showed him that age doesn't limit courage. They were his real victory. Not the Devourers destroyed. Not the power awakened. But the connections made. The trust earned. The love shared. After the ceremony, Tay found a quiet place outside, looking up at the stars. Hana joined him, as she always did. "Thinking deep thoughts?" she asked. "Thinking about my grandmother. She told me the tattoo would awaken when humanity needed it. But I don't think that's the whole truth." He looked at his palm. "I think it awakened when I finally understood that needing help isn't weakness, that relying on others isn't failure, that being human with all our limits and fears is actually our greatest strength." "Heavy stuff for a guy who still can't properly fold his uniform," Hana teased. Tay laughed. It felt good to laugh, to be normal even for a moment. "Come on. We have another briefing tomorrow." More possible devourer sites. More chances to save the galaxy. More chances to try. That's all we can do. Try. And keep trying. And never give up believing that tomorrow can be better than today. They walked back inside together. Two humans who carried ancient legacy in their blood, but refused to let it define them. Behind them, the stars watched. And somewhere in the dark, other devourers slept. But they would face those threats when they came. Together. Because that's what humans do. They survive. They adapt. They stand beside those who need them. And they never ever stop trying to be better than they were yesterday. The weak cadet who everyone mocked was gone. In his place stood Tay, still learning, still growing, still making mistakes. But now he knew that mistakes were just steps on the path. And the path, long as it was, led forward. Always forward.